What's up, guys? This is going to be another Wildstar Livestream highlight video. This time it's for the brand new Medic class, and my whole goal with this is to just try to condense as much information down into the smallest possible allotment of time, because I know a lot of you guys don't have that much time. So this is what I thought was interesting from the Wildstar Medic livestream. It seems like the class is going to have a very high skill cap. It's going to be really interesting to see how the good players play with this, and the amount of just sheer coordination that is allowed. You know, I'm not saying you're going to have top tier communication to be successful, but I mean, a super coordinated group is going to just decimate a non-coordinated group. It's going to be crazy what's going to be possible in this game. So this is what I thought was interesting. Oh, another thing, be sure to, I'm going to link down in the description below if I can find a link to the Survey Monkey survey that you have to fill out for a higher chance of getting into the beta. I'll link that down below if I can find it. It's very important you fill that out because you're going to have a priority to get into the beta. So do that because I want you guys to get in, and I will see you next time.
And speaking of beta, the beta survey is still going on, the winter beta survey. If you have not had a chance to fill that out, you can go to surveymonkey.com/s/WSWinterBeta and fill out the survey. Asks for a lot of like demographic information. Are you male, female? How much money do you make? How much?
And as well,
you live?
if you want to increase your chances of getting into beta, filling out this survey will definitely help.
Yes, that is 100% true. We are inviting people who filled out this survey before anyone else, just because you're willing to give us some of the information that we've been looking for. And so as a reward, we're prioritizing anyone who fills out this survey. So if you filled it out already, great, you're good to go. If you haven't filled it out yet, go do that. There's no time limit on it, but you know, obviously the earlier you do it, the more chances you have to get into beta.
So I got my female Mordesh here named Morticia.
Of course. Of course. And this is, we're in Algarok right now, one of the older zones that we've shown off previously, but we've got Jade, the Stalker designer, who is sitting here ready to duel.
He's also the Esper designer. I know he's been getting a little flack for his Esper play, but hopefully get a chance to redeem himself.
He's actually pretty solid.
This, Stalker play here.
He's been using the Stalker more than the Esper lately.
So we'll go over your build a little bit later, but in the meantime, Hugh, do you want to talk about how the Medic actually plays?
Sure, I'm going to give the quick overview of the Medic. So as you see what's going on, the Medic's not going to be quite what you expect when you hear just the name Medic. He's this like super high-tech dubstep class with light shows coming out of his resonators. These resonators are these super high-tech weaponry that can both heal allies and they can also deal damage to enemies. So as you see here, he's in a DPS stance, or not a stance, he's just doing DPS form, and he's doing a lot of damage to Jade here. The duel is going pretty well so far. It looks like Mark's getting the better of him this first round. Besides the resonators, the medics have things like probes. These are devices that they can cast on their allies and they cast on their enemies. Some of the probes are going to do damage over time. Some of the probes are going to buff or debuff other players. And the medic also has things like fields. These are things that you place on the ground. They do damage into the area or they buff allies in the area. In PvP, it's pretty important to stun an enemy player and then use your field. Otherwise, they're able to move out of it pretty quickly. There's also some fields that will snare enemies, which means they're going to be stuck in that area a little bit longer.
Yeah, you can also create good choke points and things like that with good placed fields. If you kind of use them willy-nilly, you're going to end up, you know, kind of misaiming your field, and it's going to kind of be a waste.
Absolutely. Besides the resonators, the fields, and the probes, the medic also has access to hybrid abilities, which do damage and heal at the same time. Mark's not actually using any of those right now. Those are in the support tree as part of your healing, so that's something that healers in dungeons will get to take advantage of. And then why don't we just talk about the playstyle of the medic. You'll see that the range of these abilities are kind of this medium range. They're longer than the attacks that the Stalker is able to do, so you'll see that Mark is kind of backing up a lot more. He's basically trying to kite Jade at a very short distance and try to keep his distance.
Jade might actually have you this time.
It looks like the Stalker is getting the better of him.
So you can see that Mark keeps leading Jade into those fields.
Mark pulled it off just barely.
Yeah, the strategy of the medic, especially in a duel in a 1v1 like this, is I have to use my fields, and then I have to often move through them or move around them to make sure that my enemies have to go through them to get to me.
Yeah. Yep. And
it looks like Jade actually won that one.
Jade did pick up the win. That was so close.
So we obviously we don't have UI yet for the duel, so you guys can't see who won and lost.
We're still in closed beta.
It tells you in chat who won and lost.
You'll notice that the medic, he's actually able to. It might not look like it sometimes when he's taking a lot of damage from the Stalker, but the medic actually wears medium armor, so he's able to take a little bit more damage than the other healers, like the Spellslinger or the Esper, who are both in light armor. And the medic is also very mobile. Since his abilities are really short range on the heal and the DPS side, he has to be able to move while casting almost all of those abilities.
That was a nice pull by the Stalker.
Yeah, that was collapse on the Stalker that pulled Mark in.
So you see the Stalker, obviously very mobile, and we'll get into that during the Stalker's live stream, but they've got a lot of gap closers. There's, you know, obviously it's really important for the Stalker to
Mark
stay
did a decisive victory there.
Nice.
What can I say?
You popped your innate, right?
He used his innate energize.
Interesting.
I think
Way
all the
more
hip
exciting.
people call this hype.
This is what we call the hype train.
The hypey,
yes.
the hypey train.
Chua, as they
That's
say.
better than what
I'm
else.
so sorry. Anyway, so before we jump back into the game, we're actually going to go through the build that Mark has made for his character.
Yeah.
So let's step through those abilities that you've got, and we'll kind of explain how each of those work and what we're going to do.
Yes, so the first ability that I'm running is Discharge. This is the medic's basic attack. It is a conal attack. You can see that it is medium range between, it's kind of between the melee, between the long range of the Esper and the Spellslinger. It's basically a really simple channeled ability that builds one of my power cores, which is my main resource at the end of the cast. And we'll move on to number 2. And this ability is called Gamma Rays. This is my first consumer. It consumes 2 cores with each use. It is a cast time, and it deals damage basically in 3 lines. It's a little hard to see on the infographic, but there's basically a center line that kind of deals more damage, and then 2 outer lines that do a little bit less. The cool thing about it is that you can hit enemies with all 3 lines, so it really kind of promotes aiming well. Sometimes you have to hit enemies with just 2 of them if you know they're moving around, but if you aim really well, you can hit them with all 3 and do some really good burst. Let's move on to number 3. Paralytic Surge. This is my main CC ability. It is a stun. It hits in this kind of cool diamond pattern. It basically deals a little bit damage and stuns the enemies, which is great. For the medic, it allows you to keep enemies in your fields, cause vulnerability on creatures, all that good stuff. Next here I got Fissure. Fissure is a pretty interesting ability. It basically creates this collapsing wave of energy starting from the outside and then going into the center. Also, like Gamma Rays, you can hit enemies with kind of all portions of the damage, so if you aim well, you're going to be hitting them multiple times. It also applies a debuff that makes them take more damage. Next, we got Devastator Probes. This is the primary probes for the DPS build. You apply it in the cone, so you can apply it to 5 enemies right now in the cone. It'll put the probe on them, do damage over time. Then you can detonate the probes to do burst damage. One thing that's really cool is that you don't actually need to aim the detonation portion. So if your enemies are running all around, you can just detonate and it will detonate no matter where they are.
So you can just tag them and then run away or whatever.
Next we got Atomize. This is a pretty cool burst damage ability. It is only available after a crit, so you kind of have to be wary of where it's at when it's available. The good thing about it is it ignores the global cooldown, so you can kind of do it after you've done an ability immediately, get some really good bursts on it. Next we got Particle Collider. This hits in this kind of interesting chevron pattern, which is good because you want to use it mainly to execute enemies. It deals bonus damage to enemies at low health, and having this kind of pattern means that you get enemies that are kind of close by and you can get the kill. And finally we have Empowering Probes. This is a little bit different than Devastator Probes. These ones can't be detonated, and this is more of a group support buff. You apply it to yourself and allies, and it will increase the damage that they do for the duration that the probes are on you. One thing that's cool about that is that you can tier it up over time, and you can get multiple charges so the probes can stack up, where you can kind of use them more steadily as you go.
Cool. So that's the build we're going to start with, and so why don't you just go ahead and start killing some things. And we'll try and call out some of those abilities as you use them. You can see that
a wild warbot.
Hugh, do you want to talk about the main resource that the medic's using?
So the medic has something called power cores, and this resource starts full when you're out of combat. So you start with 4 power cores.
And that's a very temporary UI you see there.
Yeah,
those red circles.
That's very temporary.
Yeah.
The art team has not done their final pass on that or anything like that.
It's a work in progress.
But basically, you have abilities that consume those power cores, and you're able to do those right at the start of the fight rather than having to build those up during a fight. So you have them at the start of the fight, you can use them off the bat if you want to, and then you're also able to build them up with your basic ability like Mark was talking about earlier. And so this makes the medic kind of You have the capability for a little bit of burst up at the start of the fight. It's still not going to quite reach the burst levels that a Stalker has at the beginning of a fight. But out of all the classes, the Stalker and the Medic are the two that have the best early damage capabilities, or emergency healing capabilities, since you are a healer as well.
All right, let's go over this secondary build.
Why don't we talk about the build that you got here? Do we have, we do have graphics.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to maintain Discharge. This is, again, my basic attack. It's using cores. We've already gone over that, so let's move on to the next one.
While we're waiting, we can actually start talking.
Yeah, okay. So this is one of the abilities I was using in the duel. It's called Quantum Cascade. It's also a consumer, like Gamma Rays. It's a little bit easier to use at times. It basically deals the AoE in 3 different rings, so it kind of is almost the opposite of Fissure, where it creates kind of an expanding wave of energy.
It looks like we're having some issues with our graphics. Do we want to just switch back in-game and go over it?
There we go. Yeah,
perfect timing.
So as you can see, it's got these kind of diamond patterns. It starts in front of you, so it's really good for when you're solo questing. You can always kind of hit the mob that you're fighting, but then it creates those expanding waves out from you. Deals damage each tick. The next ability I have for my main CC is Magnetic Lockdown. I was also using this in duel, which is very handy against melee. It roots enemies in place, which is key for this build because I'm rolling with fields. Last build was more concentrated on direct damage. This is fields. Magnetic Lockdown helps me keep enemies in those fields. And as we said, Nullification Field. This is a mouse target ability. So I click the ability, and then I can either mouse click or just click the ability again, and it will automatically place the field where my mouse is, and it deals damage over time. So you want to place this in PvP and choke points or in solo on top of your enemies. Next is Annihilation. This is a pretty cool ability. It creates essentially a field that does waves of damage in front of you. I also use this in a duel. So you want to keep enemies in front of you, dodge through them if you have to make sure that they stay in that. The next is Restraint Grid. This also creates a field. This one doesn't do any damage, it just snares really hard. And it also moves you backwards, so you can use it to get out of the way of the enemies and make sure that they're having to run through the big snare field. Hopefully where another field is placed, so they're also taking big damage. Urgency. This is a pretty interesting ability. One of 3 things will happen. It will either blink you forward 20 meters, or if you have an enemy in front of you, it will blink you to the enemy and you'll do AoE damage. Or if there's a friendly in front of you, you will blink to them and do AoE healing. So it's really kind of multi-purpose, and you can use it many different ways.
And it also works as a crowd control breakout, right?
Yes. Initially, it only breaks you out of movement impairing things like snares and roots, but later on, it will break you out of all CCs.
Oh, wow.
And then finally, I have Protection Probes. Basically, this just reduces the damage that I take for a duration of time. It's kind of the foil to Empowering Probes, which does damage increasing, and this does damage reducing.
Are these probes all group-wide buffs?
Yes, the all the friendly probes will apply to you and to allies that are in range.
Okay. So it looks like this build. I mean, you can go ahead and start killing stuff just as we fail a challenge. But it looks like this build is much more focused on controlling movement and then just dropping a bunch of fields on them.
Yeah, he has a lot of ability to slow down NPCs, keep them in place, or players if he was going to be using this in PvP.
And so there's just no safe place for the creatures to run. And we were seeing that in the duel too, where you were forcing Jade to run through those.
He was using a lot of these abilities in the duel. And most of these things are things you can take as a healer or a DPS.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of interesting about this build is, so the last one was very burst, so I was taking creatures down much faster. This because it's kind of more persistent. It does slower, but because of the control you have, oh my gosh, he stunned me, is that I can take on many more creatures as long as I control them well.
Yeah, those are the main 2 playstyles that the Medic has at DPS. Is you have that bursty capability where you're dealing direct damage, and then you have the damage over time through your fields and through your probes.
As you see, as I'm playing, I'm constantly cutting him around. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, you might have pulled too hard.
It's time to get out of town, I would say. That's a nice user of Strength Grid.
Nice, nice.
And so he's actually showing off some of the mobility that the Medic has here. We talk about mobility a lot in Wildstar, and some people don't know, what do we mean by mobility? What do you mean by mobility? And when we say that,
that was impressive.
You guys did a good job. You did a good job.
And so what you really did there, it looked like, was that you kind of had to break them apart, right? You had to make sure that you could keep a couple of them out of the way so you could take down some of them.
Yeah, so unlike a tank, I mean, I do have medium armor, but I'm not as heavy as the warrior, so right there I was definitely taking a good amount of punishment, and I thought I could take it more than I could, so I was kind of staying in there, and once I realized that I was in trouble, I had to move around, place my fields, keep them away from me, doing damage while they're trying to get to me.
All the abilities that he has on his bar right now, he can cast while moving around, so he's never has to be stationary when he's fighting against NPCs or players.
We're going to get into medic healing later,
I
but
died on
what is it about
stream.
medic healing that sets it apart from Esper or Spellslinger healing? Oh, Mark.
That's okay.
You had one job.
I was trying to let the transition into the questions, you know. Come on.
He'll redeem himself later. Let's answer this.
So let's answer the question. What is it about medic healing that makes it different from the other classes?
So the Esper is going to be kind of familiar to players who have played a lot of other MMOs. You have a good assortment of targeted heals, but you also have some freeform targeted abilities to kind of ease you into that Wildstar gameplay style. Whereas the Spellslinger, you're kind of staying pretty far back, and you have a lot of these fairly narrow skill shot heals. Whereas on the Medic, you're going to be up close. You're going to have to stay within about 15 meters of your allies as compared to the 30 meters that a Esper or a Spellslinger has to do. And so you're right up there in the action. And besides the fact that you have to be up close, you're also using these healing fields and these probes to heal your allies rather than the more direct heals that some of the other classes have.
Yeah, it actually makes it some pretty interesting gameplay as a healer because you can't just sit in the back, you know, with everybody in front of you. You have to kind of move around. Sometimes the range damage will be on your peripheral, and you got to keep the tank in mind. You have to kind of like move and aim and constantly switch between, you know, who you're healing.
Oh, this is a great question. Since you're using your fields build, do multiple instances of the same field ability from different medics stack?
Yeah, they do. So in some cases, the medic actually has some abilities that you have multiple charges of, and so that you're able to stack 2 of your own fields on top of each other. Like here, it's 2 different fields, but nullification field can actually be tiered up, so that you can put down 2 nullification fields at the same time and stack them on top of each other. And then, besides being able to stack your own fields on top of each other, other medics can stack their fields on top of your fields.
And so in PvP, if you're running with a full party of medics, you're just gonna have fields everywhere, and they will do a lot of damage.
There are some fields, if they have like really powerful buffs or debuffs, then for example, like the damage can happen with multiple fields, but maybe not the buff or debuff. But that's
so if it has a snare on it, the snare might not stack any higher than one medic would do. Or if there's an outgoing healing buff or incoming healing debuff, something like that. It might not stack.
Is there a favorite role for medics in raids? As in, are you going to be more of a tank healer? Are you going to be more of a raid-wide heal, AoE, single target?
So we've kind of mentioned this before, that certain healers are going to have pairings with certain tanks. It just might be better to heal a warrior as a medic, for example, because they have pretty high mitigation, so they're able to stand in front of a boss and not have to dodge many telegraphs, whereas some of our other characters would have to. So you could do the main tank healing as a medic. You could do more group healing as a medic because you have a good amount of AoE heals. You really have a lot of variety in terms of what you can do. And when we see the I think the competitive rating is going to unfold kind of before our eyes as we bring those people in and we have them playtesting our dungeons and our raids, because everything we have is really crazy, like in terms of the kind of telegraphs that are going on and the kind of mechanics that the bosses have. So it's actually going to be something interesting to see unfold.
Yeah, and we'll have to make adjustments, but definitely of course. The medic, it really kind of depends on, I mean, it's the beauty of the action set, it's the beauty of amps and tiers, what abilities you take, how your gear is. You can really kind of build whatever you want. You could go main tank healer, full, you know, DPS healer, AoE healing, group support, hybrid. It really depends on what you want to do. And you can
our goal is that for casual play, that medic could be healing in any one of those roles.
And I have my Mechari female healer, medic.
And this is actually some new character customization options, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
That people in beta haven't seen yet.
Yeah, you can see I got the cool gear on. The Mechari still likes to wear gear, but I got my
Cyclops
I got a little Cyclops thing, a little bit of a Bumblebee thing happen. It's all good.
We're going to do some 2v2 dueling just out in the the open world.
Who are we going to 2v2 against?
I don't know. Let's see.
We'll see.
Let's see if we have anyone.
Shows up.
Yeah.
It looks like nobody's showing up.
I guess,
so we're just going to chill here.
I guess we're not going to, you know. You can
go.
There
we go.
Where did the cover? Wait,
wild engineer approach.
Is that an engineer?
It is indeed. Some kind of
Holy
a bot
crap!
with him?
There's a bot. What is this? I was so not expecting this at all.
Oh man, Jade is all over that Spellslinger.
So this is the world premiere of the engineer. We're obviously going to go into more detail about the engineer during the live stream.
We'll see how he does in this duel.
But thought we'd give you a little taste of it. So you're doing 2v2 open world, and we're having you, Mark, do healing.
Yes, I'm not DPSing now.
Right.
I'm healing. So I'm trying to do my best to avoid damage And as a healer in PvP, you really have to support my DPS on top of healing.
So
I
Mark's
have to
taking a
land
couple
good
of
crowd
abilities
drills.
here,
Yeah.
like his roots and his stuns, to help lock down the enemy healer, so that Jade, the Stalker, is able to stay on top of him a little bit easier.
And so we also have time travel. Brett Shiner, our dungeon lead, playing the role of the Spellslinger healer on the other team. And so we've got the engineer doing some DPS, the Spellslinger healing, and maybe doing some DPS too, it looks like.
Soon a little bit.
Oh, Jade is going down.
I wanted to let Mark focus on this because right now Jade is getting very low. He's having to
I
use
may
emergency
lose here.
heals.
Uh-oh,
He's trying to keep him up, but
oh, and there's the bot ability.
That's it.
That
See,
just
now-
destroyed him.
Pull
Now
him
they're
down.
gonna smoke me.
I think it's best for you just to get out of town. I don't know.
I don't know.
I
Trying
don't
to
think
break
I
out.
see-
You're not gonna be able to get away.
I'm gonna fight for it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna give up.
You heal them
I'm gonna
so good.
Never
make
give
them-
up, never surrender.
I'm gonna make them take their time killing me.
And if anybody's tuning in right now and is just curious as to what the heck is going on, this is Wildstar. This is an MMORPG. We have action, combat, and we're playing a medic.
And
who
we're
is
watching
one of our new classes.
Mark, our medic designer, die
Yeah.
a slow death.
Yeah.
By the bot, in fact.
I would like to say that the opponents that we're facing are in the same room and can talk. I'm not talking to Jade. That's probably why.
But you guys are so in tune that you don't even need to communicate. You
I
can
think
just feel it.
based
right?
on the results of this duel,
Well,
I
maybe
think
you do
maybe
need
they
some help.
do need to
Yeah.
communicate.
So we're gonna pop back up. Do you want to try this before we go through that? Oh no, our heal build. We'll go over that once we
Yeah.
get into the dungeon. So do we want to try this one more time?
I think we could do it
If
one more time.
if Jade wants
Here,
to,
let me-
do
let
you want to
me-
res Jade?
Yeah, let me res Jade here.
So everyone, this is actually new to beta, but everyone now has an out of combat res.
Yeah, every character in our
Yeah.
game, all the classes, are able to res allies out of combat.
So you can just run up and right click on them to save
Yes,
them.
we do.
And so we're gonna reset. Everybody's gonna make sure they get their health up. Are you gonna make any changes to your build, or you think you got this?
I think I just have to be better.
You just think you just gotta not
Yeah,
suck?
this time
Okay.
just focus on the win.
Yeah.
I think we'll get the opener this time.
All right.
Last time we kind of let them get on us.
So you
try
can see
it this time.
Jade's in stealth right now, so the other team
Yeah.
can't see where he is,
Yeah,
except
let's
for
do
that.
it.
All right, so
Except for
this
that targeting thing he's
this
doing.
is on. Let's get this going.
All right. So here we go.
Here we go again.
Oh, look at that. So you can see an immediate burst out of Jade. Wow. Just destroys time
It was
travel.
a fairly nice setup where time travel stood still for him, to be fair.
He got a
at the
nice
beginning.
backstab in there.
He did.
But you can see that if the Stalker gets behind someone with that
He's-
opener from stealth, it's just a huge amount of
The
damage.
Stalker has a ton of
Yeah.
single target damage, especially from behind.
And it looks like
Oh,
Brett
that
just
void
slipped into
slip,
the
though.
void.
He just
and
did
so
a void slip. That's right.
he pops out with some extra health.
He comes out with a stun, hitting up Jade, and Jade is dropping low. You can see with the health bars, they actually change yellow when your health goes pretty low, and then they
And-
go to red
right.
if you're really low.
Oh, Jade just sits right through that bot attack.
Mark
believe
just
he got
rooted
C.
time travel, but he's still at he's a pretty high amount of health. So
Doing
one-
some solid heals there, but you're using your heavy ones, so
Yeah.
you're getting pretty low on mana, Mark. You can
Well,
focus. Sorry.
I was being a little extravagant with the cost because I thought Jade was gonna be able to get him.
And he seems like he's not able to get him down.
Oh,
one
but
step
I
per-
just
oh,
rooted, and I also empowering pros.
Oh, that
Jade,
could
so
be
I'm
it
taking
right
more
there.
damage.
Looks
Is
like
that
it
it?
could be it.
Oh, no.
Stun to get out of it. Clutch
Did he pop in
stun
the
by
void
Brett.
again?
No,
No,
he didn't.
he gated
He
through
gated
us.
right through you. Yep. And Jade is down.
Jade is
again.
Oh,
He had
man.
to move out of that telegraph. He was standing right in the artillery bot's AoE.
But I think
taking
one of the things I want to
damage.
show here is when you guys were, doing the 1v1 duel before, that was a pretty quick fight. As soon as you add some healers to that
Yeah.
mix, the fights last a lot longer.
But it wouldn't last too much longer than
All right,
where
this
we're at
time
right
I
now.
may
You
run.
can actually
'Cause
see
you're
the
literally out of focus
bar.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Medics
I'm
have
running.
focus like any of our other healers, and it restricts how much healing they can do.
And we
And
actually, there was a question, I don't know where it is on our sheet, so I don't know if we can pull it up, but there was a question earlier if the medic and other classes have regeneration abilities for their resources.
Oh my
They
gosh, he's
do.
still chasing
Every
me.
class that is a healer has a different ability, a unique ability that helps them regenerate
Are they
their
still chasing
focus.
you? Let's toss it up on the stream so we can go through your healing build.
And here we are. What's this? A mission.
So what do we got on your bar?
So first off is a mission. This is your basic heal as a medic. You're able to, it's a channeled heal. It's similar to discharge, except this is the heal alternative. It's a 15-meter range, so you're able to get a pretty wide group of allies in there. You can have up to 5 allies be healed with this ability, like a lot of our other abilities. I'll let Mark cover the rest of the abilities.
Yep.
I'll work to get you in the dungeon.
Yeah.
We're having some issues here, so
Little
you go through
technical
your builds.
difficulties. All right. Let's move on to number 2.
We have multiple technical difficulties, but
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay. Until then, I'm going to sing Rainbow
It's a live
Deer.
stream, guys. Are you gonna sing Rainbow
No,
Deer?
I'm not actually going to sing
No.
Rainbow
Ah.
Deer.
So while we're
Hello.
This is interesting. Now you see the questions that are
What are
So
those
now you can
things
see
on
how
the
our
screen?
question. This
Yeah.
is a little bit of
everything,
behind the scenes work
this
right
is a
now
meltdown. This is an epic meltdown.
of how we
Behind
do
the
our
curtain.
questions.
Okay. I'll continue to go over the abilities, even though we don't have the ranges. So a mission we talked about. Treat Wounds is my next one. This is actually a single target heal. It's actually got it's the longest range ability on the medic, so I can make sure I have a kind of an emergency heal for my tank. Next we have Shield Surge. This is a shield heal ability. It's also a hybrid ability, so it will deal damage and heal at the same time. And you just have to make sure that you aim and get your enemies and your allies kind of in the same line to do both at once. Next we have Healing Nova. This is one of kind of the longer cooldown burst heals that the medic has. It hits like a big AoE range and deals some really good burst damage. But with all the things that are kind of the cooldowns for the medic, if you rely on that only, you're probably going to have a dead tank or a dead PvP guy like Jade was with me earlier. So I needed to be better. Next we have Paddle Shack. This is kind of like Atomize, where it triggers on a heal crit. It actually also triggers on a damage crit, and it is also a hybrid ability. It does damage and healing within the cone, so you have to be wary of, when you're critting, kind of like Atomize. Next we have Barrier. This is kind of my oh crap button, as we say. It's basically my ultimate life sealer or lifesaver for the tank. It heals a huge amount of shields, applies a really powerful heal over time, also grants interrupt armor to protect your tank from CCs.
It's important to mention that this and Treat Wounds that were showed earlier, they have those really huge targeting areas, but they're actually only going to target one ally at a time. They're not healing everybody in that field.
Yep, they're single target. Next we have Extricate. This is a pretty cool ability. It basically heals and pulls your allies to you as you use it. It's really cool because it allows you to get enemies out of CCs. If they're standing in like a really powerful snare field and they're having a hard time getting out, you can Extricate and get them out of you. And then finally we have Repair Station. This is one of the medic's primary heal fields. It's really interesting because you can place it in the world and it won't actually start healing until an injured ally or yourself walks over it, and it will trigger the field and will start healing. So what's really cool about this is you can start the fight by placing a Repair Station out in the field. It will then wait. It essentially has like a 30-second duration in which it will trigger normally, and then if nobody walks over it, it will just trigger by itself. So if you're doing really good, you could actually get 2 Repair Stations out at once.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hey,
Boom.
Hey, just in time. What is this, a Chua?
Playing a Chua Engineer tank.
Yes.
So what's going to be actually kind of interesting about this is, as a range tank and with range DPS in the group, it's going to make my life as a healer a little bit more difficult, but with some skill and proper aiming of abilities, the medic will.
While you guys are working your way through, let's grab the next question. Can you go into more detail about some of those medic abilities that do both damage and heals?
Sure. One of the abilities is called Shield Surge, and I'm pretty sure that this is a consuming ability at the moment.
I'm actually using it right now on my action bar. It's this one right here.
It's something that costs power cores, and it at the same time that it deals damage to the enemy, it's going to heal the shields of your allies. The medic actually has the ability to heal ally shields, which none of the other healers have access to that sort of ability.
Sorry, are you still going?
Oh yeah, there's one other ability in the heal tree that also does damage and heals at the same time. So you're gonna have to line up the enemies and your allies. If it works really well if you have like a warrior in your group or something like that, somebody who's gonna be up close, because it's fairly easy to land both of those targets, to hit both of those targets.
Gotcha. And so now this is one of my favorite parts of this fight. So he targets one random player and puts like a safe zone around that player, you can see. But at the same time, he's also trying to hit that player with lightning, and so that player's got to keep moving, and the rest of the group has to move with him. You're just getting hit by every single lightning bolt there. That was really impressive.
Steven was about to die, and so I needed to make sure.
That was sacrificing yourself for the good of the team.
For the most part, though, the medic actually excels in those situations where everybody has to group up on top of each other, because the medic's able to heal while moving, and his heals are these short-range AoEs.
Yeah, and because I have the medium armor, I'm able to take a little bit more punishment than an Esper would.
Yeah, you can see every single one of your abilities you're using on the move. You don't have to worry about standing there to fire off something strong.
And please keep in mind that this is a level 20 dungeon. As an Exile, this is going to be the first dungeon that you encounter.
And so it's kind of a really good introduction to boss telegraphs. There it is.
See, what did I say? Number 1 in heals.
So look at that. Number 1 in heals, number 1 at staying alive. No, what? Now come on. We've got beta surveys in there for a reason.
He's the one healer in this group, and he brags about the fact that he's.
I mean,
you're also number
sometimes
2
you're the
in
best healer.
kills.
That's all I'm saying.
So yeah, this scoreboard, I mean, it's a very temporary UI, but you get the idea there of, you know, at the end of the dungeon, we want to give everyone some cool stats, and that'll eventually also tell you the stuff that you might have missed out on. So it'll say, like, you know, you got a bronze medal. If you had done this, you would have gotten a silver medal. And so we want to make sure that you guys always see something to look forward to and have something to aim towards the next time you run it, and just kind of keep that just a little bit of competitive edge there for running a dungeon over and over again.
It just kind of makes it a little bit more fun,
Yeah.
especially if you kind of, you know, maybe you've run the dungeon a couple times and now you got to kind of amp up the challenge for yourself and your teammates.
Oh, this is a great question. So how does Medic AoE heal fields work effectively in a game where there's a lot of movement and dodging?
So most of our fields are a little bit shorter than what you might be used to in other games. The heal fields, like repair stations, is actually pretty long. But that one works because you see where that is as an ally, and so you're going to stand in that area. And while, yeah, the other players know that you're in there, you have to kind of judge, is it worth it to get the heal over time from this field, or should I move out of it?
Yep.
And then besides that, for fields just in general, it's really good to use your CC abilities to stun players, to keep them in those fields, and your ally stuns to keep them in there. And as a medic, you actually have an ability called Extricate, which can pull allies to you.
Yep.
So you have the ability to pull allies into your healing fields.
And so it seems like a lot of what we were also seeing in the PvP, we're seeing a lot more of, you know, those fields, a lot of abilities that will slow players, stun players, root players, and so you can control the field a lot better as the medic.
It's definitely, I mean, I would say that the medic is definitely a little higher skill cap, and that is part of why it's harder, is you have to place your fields effectively. In that encounter, for example, the big telegraph is closing in on my buddy. I know where my tank's going, so if I place the field in front of him, I know he will run into it. And then the damaging attack will go away, and then he's standing in the field and getting healing.
Yeah, I mean, all of our classes require different types of skills, kind of. Like the medic requires skills in placing your fields effectively. The spell slinger requires good skills to time your spell surge at the right time, to line up your shots. It's kind of interesting how all of our classes have these skill caps for the specific play style associated with them.
I think with the Storm Talon fight, we saw that, like, once someone gets targeted and has to keep moving, you know where they're moving. Like, they start running in a circle, and so you can prep your fields to make sure that they're having to run through them, too.
And they can see where your fields are, too.
And so they know where to aim for.
Yep.